So let's get to it. So, first video in the new house. Super excited about it. And, this place is awesome. Really enjoying it so far. My roommate hasn't moved in yet, but he's going to be here this Saturday. So excited for that. But yeah, since I moved in, I've been really thinking about my habits a lot and trying to make sure that I am spending time doing things that advance me as a person. And one of the things that I've really fallen off of that I used to do a lot is reading. And so I've been reading $100 million Leads and $100 million Offers by Alex Hormozy. But on top of that, I've been kind of getting back into some of the more self improvement style books. And one of the ones I'm reading is The Way of the Superior Man. And this book is one that I read a while ago and really wanted to come back to it just because it talks a lot about how to live the life of a man who is on a mission, who has purpose. I think sometimes he gets a little woo woo for me, especially being a Christian. I think that sometimes he gets more into the energy, and some of the stuff is harder to relate now that I'm deeper in my faith. But overall, the book is very, very good for um, just living life as a man and living with purpose and how to handle life as a man. And one thing I was reading chapter 14 today where it says, don't get lost in tasks and duties. This is something that weighs heavily on me because he talks a lot about how your purpose outweighs your task, and it's not good for us just to be in a do mode where we're just trying to check off boxes of tasks and things like that. But how are we actively living towards our mission? And one thing that really hit me today when I was reading it was he says, you cannot do enough, nor can you do the right things so that you will finally feel complete. And I think that really hit home for me just because a lot of the times my value, my worth that I find in myself is based on the output that I put out into the world. And, I think it was just a good reminder that, like, hey, your purpose is bigger than the production of my business, than the workouts that I have, things like that. And so I just wanted to remind y'all of it too, as I'm reading through this book. Two things. One, reading is so good for the mind. It soothes the mind, especially when you're really trying to digest what the author was trying to say and the lessons that he was trying to teach. But then specifically to this chapter of the book, it's like, hey, our worth is not found in our output as founders. Our worth is more found in our purpose and our following of that purpose, as well as the lives that we impact along the way. Just kind of wanted to share that and kind of give an update. This is, I guess, the first talk since being in the new house. So yeah, y'all can kind of see I'm downstairs in the kitchen eating area right here, and then behind me is the living room. Behind y'all is the kitchen and everything. Just had a nice little dinner, had a burger bowl. And yeah, so first week here in the new house, really enjoying it. And yeah, just getting back to the roots of it and spending time reading, spending time working, just really trying to lock into more of a monk mode as it's referred to quite often. So but as always, there's a lot to do, a lot of work to be done. Still wrapping up 2 tax returns that I took on late that were pretty detailed and a little bit harder, which I will tell y'all more about those once the filings actually happen, and I'll provide more details there. But yeah, just reading a little bit during dinner tonight and about to head back upstairs to the office and get back to work. So let's get to it. So now that I've made it through tax season, I'm in a stage where I can start focusing a lot more on marketing and actually growing the business, which is honestly really exciting because it's a lot of exploration of a side of the business that I don't know as much about. And also, forgive the background, I'm getting bookshelves in some point this week that'll make the setup a little bit better. But yeah, in the meantime, I still have a few clients that I'm actually doing tax return preparation for. And so what I wanted to do is kind of walk y'all through what the actual tax side of the business looks like whenever I'm doing the return preparation for clients. And so essentially what I'm going to do is show you how I go from the bare numbers that they give me all the way to the client deliverable and what the step-by-step looks like for that process. Okay, so typically I prefer when I work with clients for them to be full-time monthly retainer clients where I'll do their bookkeeping and I will also, have their numbers ready. But for some that I take on, whether I take on just a new tax prep client or somebody late in the year, sometimes I'll have to just take on somebody who they supply all of the information. So what I've done here is I've created some mock bank statements, just to kind of show you what the raw side of things look like. Now, obviously, these were made with Claude, and whenever I handle any client information, I have to be very sure to redact anything that is a personal identifier, such as like this business checking would be taken out, any names, anything like that. If I have QuickBooks, I essentially go from the QuickBooks to the software prep. It's the same company, so it's a lot more seamless. But for now, let's act like it's just a client that I have a random bank account from. So this would be, bank and credit card statements, be month to month, what their stuff is. Normally it's not this organized, but this is just for example's sake. And so essentially what I'll do is I'll take these raw bank statements, and what I'll do is I will put them into a work paper. So this is my work paper template that I have. And so you can see I'll take it with Claude and I will make it fit all of the information into here. Now, two things. As I mentioned earlier, you have to make sure that there's no sensitive information, no social security numbers, no bank accounts, any of that, just raw data before you're able to put it into something like Claude. And second of all, of course, you have to cross check and cross reference whenever you do that to make sure that the numbers are right and that you didn't lose out on any income or expenses or any other numbers that flow through the bank or credit card statements. And so sometimes that can be a little bit difficult, but you're essentially just making a general ledger. And with that, you add up all the different accounts, all the different numbers. And so then you can get it into a template like this where you're able to see the different things that play into the actual return. Now, also, when working with the client's numbers, typically there's going to be things missing, like missing receipts. There's going to be a lot of questions about personal versus business expenses that they're wanting to take that they ran through the bank account. Some of them have S corps that didn't run payroll, other things like that, and those are all, of course, things that we handle. But for the sake of this video, let's just take it as an easier example. And so once I have everything in here, I'll go through each of the sections. So you want to go through the main tax position summary, the income. So once we have everything in here, what we're going to do is we're going to be wanting to go from the work paper back here and cross-reference and make sure that everything adds up, everything is accounted for within the work paper, right? And so we're going to be making sure that we have all of our income, all of our expenses, and everything like that. And from there, typically I'll make an income statement and a balance sheet, right? The income statement is obviously most important because it's profit and loss. The balance sheet, if the client requires it, based on the different factors that go into if they're required to file a balance sheet. Those will also go into it. And other things will go into it as well. Like sometimes we'll have a home office, and so we'll make a tab for that, and we'll keep track of all of the things that go into the home office expense, and we'll calculate that out on here. Okay, and so I actually went ahead and just kind of created these just so you could see what the actual tabs look like. So once again, just a mock makeup of what the income statement would look like. Obviously, this would be pretty close to what we get to on the actual tax return. And then here is, a rough home office type of thing on how it would look. So yeah, all these come together and they all flow to this income statement. And once again, if a client needs it, we form a balance sheet which just shows the assets, liabilities, and equity accounts of the business. And yeah, from there, so if they have any personal income away from their business, or any itemized deductions, other miscellaneous items, we'll of course make tabs for that because those will all flow to the personal tax return. But once again, we're going to go with the simplistic example here. And yeah, before we actually move to our tax prep software, we'll make sure to cross-reference everything again, make sure that everything is aligned, everything's accounted for, and we're actually ready to move on to the next step. So now we're in the actual tax prep software, and so typically when I'm working with clients, I'll start with their business return first. So for this one, we did an 1120S, and essentially what you'll do is you'll just go through and you put all of their information, carry forward from last year, anything that needs to be carried forward, and you make sure that all their receipts, everything like that, and you just basically take the information from the work paper and upload it into here. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of how all the details work and everything like that, but essentially we just make sure it works and that everything is being treated the way that we are expecting it to be treated. If there's any variances, of course, we'll look into why the software is treating it that way, look into the tax code, make sure that everything is aligned with how it should be treated. And then after doing that, we will return to the 1040, and basically what we do is we make sure that anything that flows from the business return into the personal is inputted there, and then rinse and repeat the process of just making sure all the information is correct, all the numbers are correct, adding any additional income, expenses, itemizations, everything like that here into the software, and just making sure that everything is accounted for. And then, of course, from here, what we'll do is we will do a final cross reference. And this just looks like going back and forth line by line of every number on the return and making sure the work paper and the return match up how we're expecting them to. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how I do the returns with all of my clients. So it's a pretty simple process, but of course it's not easy. It takes a lot of attention to detail and making sure that every little number is correct. And once I have finalized the return, of course I send it over to them for signature. And one thing that I do make sure to include is I'll record a Loom walkthrough of the return and how each line item came to be, what numbers played into it, and everything like that. And I've found that that is something that clients really appreciate because I feel like a lot of people just kind of get the return and they're told to review it but don't really know what they're reviewing. And so I try to go the extra mile and send them a video walkthrough of the return so that they can understand how I got to each of the numbers, right? And that's something that from, my one tax season already, the clients have really appreciated. And, I think it just goes back to show that if you just go the extra mile, take the one extra step, that people will always appreciate that extra effort so much. And, it's just something that I've been told multiple times they really appreciate it and that they've never had a previous accountant do that for them. And it just goes to show again that going the extra mile for your deliverables, for your client services, just really pays off in the long run, even if it takes more time up front. So, yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the kind of run through on how I actually go about my tax return preparation. I'm always looking to reiterate, and find new ways to improve the process, but this is where I'm at right now, and so far it's worked, and I feel like I get a good level of review at each step. Some of y'all, it might be boring. For me, it's just a big puzzle every time I have a new return. It's just, taking the pieces, putting them together to paint a picture, so it's a really fun process for me. Um, but yeah, like I said, I've got several other returns I need to get out, so gonna get back to work, but I hope y'all enjoyed the video and gonna end the vlog off here. But yeah, as always, never stop your relentless pursuit of continuous improvement, and I look forward to us talking again soon.